Marina stood at the entrance to an old five-story building, tightly squeezing the hand of 8-year-old Alisa. After 3 exhausting years filled with scandals, humiliations and endless lawsuits with her now ex-husband, this peeling gray door seemed like the only salvation. 20 years ago, she used to run here to her godmother for tea and pies every Sunday, and now she was returning with her daughter, having lost almost everything she had. "Mom, is this really our home now?" Alisa tugged her by the hand in her jacket, bringing her back to reality. Her daughter's eyes showed concern. The last few months had left their mark on the child. "Yes, honey. Your godmother Vera lived here. This is our home now." Marina tried to smile, but her lips trembled treacherously. She and her daughter had nothing left except this two-room apartment, unexpectedly inherited from her godmother who had died suddenly. The entrance smelled of cats and boiled cabbage, so familiar, almost a native smell. On the second floor they were met by their neighbor Aunt Zina, still plump, in a colorful dressing gown, only completely gray. She looked out at the sound of footsteps and clasped her hands. "Daughter, finally arrived." She embraced them, smelling of borscht and fresh pastries. "And who is this beauty?" "Alisonka. Oh, I remember you as a little girl. Come over for some pies. I just got some out of the oven." "Thank you, Aunt Zina. But first we need to unpack our things." Marina got the keys. Her hands trembled slightly as she inserted the key into the keyhole. The door opened with a drawn-out creak, as if complaining about being alone for so long. The smell of an uninhabited room hit her nose. Dusty sunbeams, breaking through the tulle, illuminated familiar furniture, an old chest of drawers with worn handles, a sofa with crocheted napkins on the back, stacks of books on the shelves. On the walls hung framed photographs, a whole life frozen in black and white and color pictures. "Mom, look, what a beautiful room." Alice ran off to explore the apartment, and Marina slowly sank onto the sofa, trying to comprehend the new reality. Thoughts about the upcoming renovation, about school for Alice, about finding a job were spinning in her head. But through the worries, a strange feeling broke through here, in her godmother's apartment, as if time had stopped. Each thing kept memories of the happy days of her visits with her mother, of long conversations over tea, of the godmother's wise advice. "Mom, can I live in that room? There are such cool wallpapers with flowers there." Her daughter's voice brought her back to reality. Marina got up and went to look at the room, wondering how they would manage to turn this place into a real home. There was a lot of work ahead, but the main thing was that they were together, and they had a chance to start all over again. The evening was slowly descending on the city, painting the sky in gentle pink tones. Lights were coming on in the neighboring windows, and the voices of people returning from work could be heard from the streets. The ordinary life of an ordinary yard was going on as usual, and now she and Alice were becoming part of it again. Night had fallen, but Marina could not fall asleep. After that, after Alice had settled into the small room and finally calmed down, stopping asking endless questions about the new house, Marina decided to sort out at least some of her godmother's things. She couldn't explain even to herself why she didn't want to put it off until tomorrow. Perhaps she hoped to find some connection with the past, with the carefree life she had before marriage. The old chest of drawers in her godmother's bedroom smelled of lavender and mothballs. Each drawer held its own secrets, neatly folded lace napkins, letters yellowed with time, tied with faded ribbons, old photo albums in worn covers. Marina went through the things carefully, as if touching someone else's memories. Here was a postcard with a seascape. The godmother went to Crimea every summer. And here was a pack of translated from Russian to English. www. Online.com black and white photographs, where the very young godmother was standing at the checkpoint of the factory, where she had worked all her life. In the bottom drawer, under a stack of starch sheets, her hand felt something hard. Marina took out a package wrapped in an old newspaper and tied with twine. In the corner, in faded purple ink, was written, "To be opened after my death." To Marina, a chill ran down her spine. Her godmother had never spoken about this package, although she often told different stories from her life. Why to her, and why after death? With trembling hands, Marina untied the twine. The newspaper turned out to be an old Soviet Pravda from 1982. Inside was a worn tin box from Montpensier, and in it was a yellowed envelope and a small key, similar to those used to lock mailboxes. Marina opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in a familiar, neat handwriting. "Godfather, my dear girl, if you are reading these lines, It means I am no longer with you. Don't be sad. I've lived a long and generally happy life, but there is one secret that I've kept for many years and I have to tell you about it." Marina felt a lump in her throat. At that moment, somewhere in the depths of the apartment, a strange sound was heard, either a creaking floorboard or a rustle. She shuddered and turned to the door. A shadow flashed in the darkness of the corridor. "Alice," Marina called, but her daughter was fast asleep in her room. She had just checked. Her heart began to beat faster. Marina squeezed the small key in her hand, feeling the cold metal digging into her palm. What was hidden behind this secret? And why did she suddenly feel so uncomfortable in the apartment she had known since childhood? Marina sat in the armchair, unable to tear her eyes away from the letter. The lines written in familiar handwriting seemed to come to life before her eyes. "My dear girl, what I'm about to tell you now may seem incredible, but it's the honest truth. In 1982, when I was working as a chief accountant at a plant, I came across documents that revealed a major fraud. It was about millions of rubles that the plant's management was embezzling through fictitious accounts. I collected all the evidence, but before I could do anything that same evening, two people came to my home and hinted in no uncertain terms that if I didn't keep quiet, something bad will happen." Marina took a breath. She remembered that year. She was 5 years old. And it was then that her godmother suddenly quit her job at the factory and got a job as a simple cashier in the cafeteria. "I hid all the documents in a safe place. The key you found to the safe deposit box in the old bank on the corner of Sovetskaya and Lenin. Now there's a hardware store there, but the safes remained untouched behind a false wall in the basement. I've been paying rent for that safe deposit box for 40 years through a trusted person. The documents are still there. And now they're yours." There was an unexpected knock on the door. Marina shuddered, hastily hiding the letter in her robe pocket. Aunt Zina was standing on the threshold with a plate of pies. "The light is on," I thought. "You're not sleeping. And my pies are fresh." The neighbor fell silent, peering into Marina's pale face. "What's wrong with you, girl? You look as if you were falling asleep." Marina invited the neighbor to come in. "Aunt Zina?" Oak sank into a chair and suddenly said, "Found. That is, Vera Pavlovna asked me to make sure you received this package." "Did you know?" Marina sank onto the sofa. "I knew. Your godmother and I had been friends for 40 years. She told me everything before she died. About the documents, and about the threats, and about how she had to leave the factory. Do you know why she left this to you? Because you are the only one who can restore justice. Your father works in the prosecutor's office, right?" Marina nodded. She had not spoken to her father for several years. He was against her marriage to Igor, as it turned out, for good reason. Those people who threatened Vera Pavlovna, many are still alive, and their children are in power. And these documents, they are not only about the past. There is a whole scheme there, how the money was withdrawn, through which companies. And imagine, these companies still exist, they just changed their name. Footsteps were heard in the corridor. Alisa woke up. "Mom, why aren't you sleeping?" Her daughter, sleepy and with disheveled hair, appeared in the doorway. "Come to us, sunshine." Marina patted the sofa next to her. "Will you eat some pies?" Watching her daughter gobble up the treat, Marina thought about the choice she would have to make. She could simply burn the documents, forget this story and start a new life. Or could she? She could try to restore justice, for the sake of which her godmother had kept her secret for 40 years. "Aunt Zina." Marina stood up resolutely. "Won't you sit with Alisa? I need to go to my father." The neighbor, understanding, nodded. "Of course, girl. Alisa and I will bake some more pies, right?" The morning sun was already painting the sky in pink tones when Marina left the entrance. In her pocket was a small key that could change not only her life, but also the destinies of many people. Somewhere deep in her soul she knew her godmother was right to confide this secret to her. 2 hours later she was already sitting in her father's office. He had aged. There was more gray in his hair, but his eyes were still the same tenacious, attentive. So she had returned. He was silent. "I knew that Vera Pavlovna left you the apartment, but I didn't think that she left this too." He turned the yellow documents in his hands. "Dad, what should I do?" For the first time during their meeting, he smiled. "What I always taught you to fight for the truth. Only now you are not alone. I will help." Returning home, Marina felt an unusual lightness. A difficult path lay ahead, perhaps dangerous, but she was no longer afraid. She had a daughter to show an example of honesty and courage. She had a father ready to support her. There was the memory of her godmother, who believed in her. And there was the truth, which, as the godmother said, sooner or later comes out anyway. And now Marina knew her time had come.